Thank you everyone for joining us. I am Andra Hedden and I am here today with Adam Slutskin. Thank you for joining us, Adam. Many of you already know this face and definitely know this name. Adam is a huge contributor to many companies in the space. He obviously is the CRO currently at Liongard, but his background spans many companies from Kaseya to CA to ConnectWise to eFolder, and he's consulted and continues to advise many other companies as well, such as Cyberfish and then also IT by Design. I could go on. But Adam, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you doing?
I'm doing okay. I'm doing well. Staying the course and just trudging forward. I know there's so much going on right now, but I want to get started though and talk about you personally. So building teams seems to be the thread that runs through your background and your resume. So talk through that. What's attractive to you about going into a vendor and helping build sales teams?
Yeah, I just think it's a little bit of the challenge of going into the unknown, of trying to identify a starting point, and really just always reflecting back, on experience, right? Most of what we do is learn from not really, as much as the success, right? Because we can repeat that, but where the failures were. Mm-hmm. And I just like trying to see when I can help others maybe avoid some of the failures that I've experienced and help them navigate it a little bit more, and then just really mapping that. I think the one component is the building and understanding the numbers and structure. But, the other part I do like talking about is the leadership. And,
absolutely,
for me, it does reflect back to, I did 20 years in the military, and I don't ever want to profess I was the, the model soldier, because I was with so many great people. Mm-hmm. But I liked being a soldier. I liked being in the military and the Air Force. And I learned a lot about leadership, by the people that I thought were really great.
Talk about that. What are some of the key qualities that you think make up that, or what did you admire that you carry on today?
Yeah, it's interesting because I think when you go in and, when I joined out of, was in high school and, I like talking transparently about it. I didn't understand school. It was too slow for me back then. And,
mm-hmm.
Honestly, I didn't even finish high school when I went into the military. I wound up finishing while I was in the military and then going to college. I really appreciated the fact that when you watched movies, we thought, how perfect it is and how clean it is. And the reality is, for anybody that's watching in the military, it's anything but. It's controlled chaos. And what you really are is you're empowered to go into, and you learn how to go into situations where, the unexpected happen, and you have to be able to really think on your feet and make those fast adjustments. And, I quickly started putting it together as long as I was in the military, is understanding the leadership component. How do you lead people through that? But then, and then how you make those adjustments. And then I read about Simon Sinek, because I always wondered how that really connected with business. Mm-hmm. And then, oh my God, I'm like, there's the guy who really, I think, put together for a lot of us that understood there was so much in common. And that made me even feel more confident in combining some of these, these strategies and these approaches, and I think it really helped make me probably better on the business side than when I was even in the military.
I love that. I mean, I think the underlying thing you're saying is it's to build a great team is to understand people and to understand how to communicate well with people and lead them to whatever that common goal is. And one of the things you said that I loved is many times, particularly whether it's a partner or it's a vendor, often that fear of that unknown, instead of being that person who goes into the battle and knowing that there's going to be unknown, knowing there's going to be failures, and trying to figure out how to best navigate those and learn from them. Many people sit all the way back and they never enter that battle because they don't want to. They know that there's going to be bad things that could happen. So I love what you're saying, and obviously you do have a lot to.
Let's talk about that with the MSP, right? And so some of those things are there's that fear, and especially with the MSP where they get a little unbalanced and they have that one client that maybe represents too much of their total revenue, and it's scary. And then look, you lose them, mm-hmm. and it's that initial fear rather than right using the military analogy, being able to quickly assess make those adjustments, understand what we're going to do because nothing changes. You're still going to be a going concern.
Yep.
You still got to finish the mission. You don't get to go, oh my God, we're done.
Yep.
And I think it's just that. I think, working with the MSPs now for almost 14 years, I just can't say enough. I love the ecosystem. I totally connect with the challenge of the entrepreneur, the serial entrepreneur, and small and medium business, which is truly just the backbone of, and not even just America, North America, the world, and the challenges they face and that commitment they have to their own people. It really is so similar in the military. As you grow into those leadership roles, we're going to go do a mission, but man, you want to make sure everybody's cool, everybody's safe. We're all going to get back. We're going to make sure that we have a plan, but we also are going to be prepared to make adjustments, which happen almost all the time. And I just see the similarities with our ecosystem and with the MSP.
Definitely. And talk a little bit more too, like double down on that for a second, how to enable for that success. So there's the building out of that team, right? And I think first what you mentioned is you got to understand that mission. So I think a lot of MSPs get in trouble too, because they don't even know where they're trying to trudge to. And then, so you got to understand that mission, then putting that team together and enabling them for success. And then ultimately being successful. Talk a little bit through that process that you bring your teams into, because you've done this time and time again, built out wonderfully successful teams and gotten them to follow your lead to success.
I think that, understanding, first of all, that they're all going to be a little bit different. It's not like, hey, here it is. I would just put it on a one pager and just give it to everybody, because that's what you want to do. But it's assessing what is it that you're trying to accomplish, so you can really think about what is your ideal candidate going to look like. Are you putting them in a position to be successful? Are they going to have a clear understanding on what their contribution is and what those objectives are? And I never want to misrepresent. Like, for example, when I was on the Air Force, I flew on planes. I was on what was called a C-5. Anybody that's seen them, those really, really big planes that you can't believe fly. And, you have pilots and you have flight engineers and you have load masters, and, you can't be everything. And so I wasn't a pilot, right? I was a load master. And understanding what that role is, if you had tried to make me a pilot, you wouldn't want to be on that plane. And so it's the same as when we're building teams. Do we have a clear understanding of the role that we're trying to create, hire for? Do we understand the role? Because the last thing we want to do is hire a load master to be a pilot, right? Same thing. And so I think it's really understanding that, and that, the biggest thing, Andra, I think sometimes I've seen with working and helping the MSPs is that, hey, I've got this really good salesperson and they have a Rolodex. And I have never, ever hired someone because they have a Rolodex, because the Rolodex has a bunch of names on it. It's finite. It's very small. And I'm going to call those 30, 40 people, and then I've got nothing. So, I think that's just one of those things, and understanding, do I have that dynamic person? Look, we're going to target this area. If you have a area of expertise you focus on, do they line up? If you're going to call on, medical entities, do they have a medical background? Do they understand the vernacular? Because if they've only ever sold to law firms and they have that Rolodex even, and it's going to be, law firms, how are they going to fit if your primary focus is, calling on doctors? It's not going to work.
And having that expertise to be able to fit into that said role. Now talk about the enablement piece of them. So once you get those great sales reps that are going to fit that need, and they are the right person in the right role for the right reasons, not the Rolodex, but because they have the skill set that they can either be trained or that they come in with a skill set. Now, what's that next piece? How, if I'm an MSP, or even if I'm a small vendor or a vendor trying to build out a sales team right now, what do I have to do to enable my sales team for success?
Yeah, and by the way, make sure, right, when we say sales, because we have so many different roles, right? A lot of times they'll try to blend an account manager and a new sales role into one. And the challenge is they're very different. You got the whole hunter farmer mentality, and they really are very different. Account manager is going to nurture your install base, really protect their well-being, make sure they're having a good experience. And then if you have additional services and products to sell, they can certainly do that. Whereas a new salesperson, right, they're going to go out there and they have to kind of try to slay the dragon, or at least capture it, and, continue to do that over and over. So I think, part of that enablement is understanding, again, really, what are you trying to solve for? Because I do see that be something that where a lot of MSPs will make mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think it's that, but then it's like, look, okay, start really thinking through the objectives. So do you really have a clear understanding of what you want them to achieve,
Mm-hmm.
right? Do you want them to add 20 new clients this year? Do you understand your average, MRR, AR that you want to target? Do you understand the timing? Do you understand the geography that you want them to call on? Is there a specific industry? And it's okay if you don't have a specific industry,
Mm-hmm.
but do you target a certain size? And then it really is making sure that we understand what that is, because whatever your system of record is, do we have a nice methodical place that we can have all this information so that we can, look, even if you're not going to start off by running campaigns against it and doing some marketing, but that if I come in and you hire me, Andra, and you're the MSP,
Mm-hmm.
that we can come in, I've got to learn the essence of what the company is, who we are, what's our value proposition, how do we differentiate? Because if you don't know your differentiators, don't hire somebody until we can really get into that, right?
Yep.
And then it's having that system of record that we can be methodical and capture all that information as I begin to target whatever that market is, with a clear understanding of what the objectives are. We know it's going to take you 3 months to Adam to build a pipeline. At the end of 3 months, this is what we expect. We expect to start closing some deals. We expect that continue to build as we go out through the year.
Mm-hmm.
So, Q1 we expect to build. Q2 we expect to maybe close 3 to 5 clients. Looking at this target of revenue we want to create. Q3 we expect it'll continue to grow as far as our close rate, because we'll see some more of that maturity of your pipeline, and then so forth. And that you're also having a solid cadence with the salesperson, rather than saying, hey, good luck, Adam, there you go.
Right.
Look for the deals.
Right. No, absolutely. And I think too that back end system that you're talking about, whether it's your PSA, your CRM, whatever that is, it is an opportunity to keep everything about your business clean and organized, no matter how it's utilized. And so it's just, it can be utilized for campaigns. It can be utilized for adding in net new sales reps and easily distributing different, regions for them to call out on, or different levels or types of client based on size or industry, as you're mentioning, if it's medical or something else. And so keeping that clean is so incredibly important.
And, some of these things you may not have in place today. So if you're an MSP and you're either owner-led or you're hiring your first salesperson, that's awesome. But, if you don't have the knowledge and the wherewithal to be able to, to have that marketing function, or to have what's called a business development rep who does heavy calling to set up appointments and leads, that's where like a Marketopia really helps out. And I've seen it firsthand with MSPs that I've worked with who use Marketopia, who I've referenced over, and really having that nice consistency of creating some lead flow, creating some, evangelizing the company, doing some email campaigns and other things.
Absolutely. Well, I appreciate that. I wasn't going to say one word about Marketopia,
but it's true, because they come to me and they do try to understand how to solve for that. And I'm like, hey, look, here's a good thing. You don't need to, right? There are companies out there that are very good at this, like a Marketopia, who came from the space, and they can help set that up. But that's completing that sales process, because you don't want to have those gaps, right? So whether your plan is, if you're going to have it in-house or you already have it in-house, that's great. If you don't, the great thing is, Marketopia is out there. They can help with that. And then what you're really trying to do is, we're just trying to complete that end-to-end sales process. Absolutely. So that we can be methodical and really get to a point where that we're comfortable saying, hey, I look at my crystal ball. Yep, we're going to close 5 deals next quarter. Mm-hmm. The quarter after that, we're going to close 5 deals.
Yep. And being able to project like that. Absolutely. And it's one of those things where many partners and vendors fall off at a certain point, even if they've got the sales reps and they have everything situated to where they do know their metrics, they do know their goals, they do know what they're supposed to be achieving. It falls off because they're either doing the same role, like you mentioned, or they don't understand, how to take it to that next level and close a deal, or even how to get a lead. If they're a closer and they don't know how to open, that's a problem too. So back to that separation of the type of role, having the right person do the right role is so important. Question for you on, so talking about obviously sales groups, putting together sales groups with the ultimate goal of driving revenue, right? Like that is the ultimate goal of putting in sales teams and selling. Now talk to me a little bit about the awareness creation. So right now, you know, we're in a bit of a virtual world, right? And sales reps are having so many different types of sales conversations, and the sales cycle looks a little bit different and is even presented differently. Zoom calls or Teams calls versus on-prem meetings in the field. What are some tips and tricks that you can share with how sales teams can go and attack and find new business even in today's climate?
Yeah, it's definitely, you know, it's changed, and you have to, you know, it comes down to that adaptability, and, you know, we can talk from both sides, right? So for, and for all of us, because a lot of MSPs, you know, attend events and maybe chamber of commerce meetings and everything. And a lot of those have maybe, you know, they have gone away. And for us on the vendor side, right, it's similar in that a lot of us really enjoyed the engagement we get from the physical events. And so they've gone away. So I think it's one, definitely pivoting to understand what are those non-physical activities you can do. Are you embracing social media correctly, right? A lot of people, you know, because we are home, a lot of us. And I know that I've been working from home since the end of February. My whole team has. And by the way, what's really great is we've seen great growth. And so many of the MSPs I talk to are also, because we're pivoting. We're embracing digital marketing activities more. We're making sure that we are promoting our services through the different social channels that we can communicate on. And some of those can be localized and some of them are very big. And so I think it's embracing some of those new approaches. And then, so here's the good thing for me personally, you know, specifically with MSPs that I've worked with, you know, prior to this year, everything was always about, let me make that first appointment about going on site. And I know some people are going to probably disagree with me, but, for the last few years, I've really been trying to say, but wow, imagine if you could really increase your scale if you do those first meetings virtually.
Sure.
And I think from a lot of the MSPs that I'm working with, they're like, hey, I know you pushed me on it for a long time, but yeah, now I am doing a lot of those initial meetings virtually, and you can just do more of them. Rather than if you go on site and I got one on one end of the city or town and one on the other end, maybe I can get to 2 meetings in a day, but when you do virtually, you can get 5.
Yep, take back that drive time and fit in more. Now, what do you suggest they do on that first meeting? Because I know, even in having that conversation of switching to more of a digital and embracing what you've already been saying for so long, I feel the same on the marketing side. Things that have been talked about for years now are starting to be adopted. So I love you relating that to the sales motions. Now talk about that first meeting. What does that look like, a successful first virtual meeting for an MSP? What does that look and sound like?
And so I think that's what a great question, because it's the same no matter what you are, vendor, MSP, anybody. It really is about the discovery, right? Because what we want to do is be respectful to their time and to our time. It's really that discovery to understand, can we help you, right? At that most basic thing. What are you doing today? Where are those gaps? Me being able to communicate our value proposition, where we align to solving those gaps. Because here's a good thing, and everybody, I think where it gets lost is, let's say we have that initial discovery, right? And we're always excited, right? Every appointment's great. We want to go on appointment. We think every one of them is going to close. Nobody has 100% close rate, sorry. And so what I want to do is, it's a success if we find out that it's not a fit. So before I come out there, and we're going to take that next level, and either because we're going to do a site survey, we're going to take an inventory, we want to see the office, we want to look in the server room, right? We want to do all those things. By the way, there's a lot of great tools out there that you guys are all using now that allow you to do those assessments virtually anyway.
Absolutely.
But I get it. You want to reinforce it with, look, I'm a real person. I'm not make-believe. But it's a success when you identify the next step is, we clearly can work together, that we absolutely can help address some of those challenges you're having, whether they're working with another MSP and they're not meeting their needs, or they're talking about moving from internal to outsourced. But it's also equally as good when you discover that it's not a fit. Because now you just save that time of going out on site and spending 3 or 4 hours when you're just not going to be a fit.
And I think too that making sure that back to, can we work well together, what you were mentioning, you're saving time, and then you're also connecting on different things. I mean, back to the, can you communicate well in a virtual conversation? Can you, and there's some things that I know many MSPs are working on right now, their own personal brand, how they communicate over virtual, and the things that they feel comfortable with. And some are losing deals because they're too worried about that, you know, turning on their video on a call, or feeling comfortable talking and being confident on a video call. And so the ones that are diving right in and doing what you say, which is taking those virtual calls, digging into it anyway, are winning. And there are a lot of MSPs out there winning a lot of business right now, and aren't letting any of these setbacks hurt them. And
yeah, I mean, I think they've done a great job of pivoting, and props to all of you that do watch this, and that you've done that. And I've seen so many of you really have success. And we've also, and I'm sure it's the same for you, we've felt the pain, because, you know, we both, Andra, right, live with the MSP, and that's who we want to enable for success. And we do feel the pain when you guys, you know, have some setbacks, and you guys lose some clients, and, you know, have had to make some adjustments, and, you know, we want to be there to help you. And like, look, you know, we've gone through the same things, and we, you know, we do get it, and we're trying to share those best practices. You know, it's like all the little things, you know, people that are afraid of Zoom, right? Zoom best practices, you know, don't do this, don't sit off in the corner, don't, you know, be up front, you know, communicate with your hands, lean in a little bit to show interest. And these are all those little things too that we're all having to adapt and learn. If you ask me about, you know, Zoom best practices, or, you know, whichever one you're using, by the way, not if you're not using Zoom, but, you know, come on, 9 months ago, did any of us know that? And now we're adapting, we're adjusting, and understanding how to have a more effective virtual call.
Definitely. Let's dig into security. So we've covered the, let's get a good sales team together. What does that look like? Now, how to double down in making sure that they're successful. Then what does it look like to actually go on sales calls in this type of a world? Now I want to talk a little bit about security. So from your perspective, obviously this is such an important conversation right now, and is the hottest of conversations that COVID only sped up. Security was already the most important thing to be talking about pre-COVID. Once COVID hit, it just exasperated everything, and it's so crucial. So take us down the path of, what does a security lead-in conversation look like from an MSP? What would you suggest how they have that conversation? And then if it were up to you, what does that perfect security stack look like for an MSP that's trying to piece it together right now?
You know, listen, it's going to be a little bit different for everyone. So first you have physical security, right? And geography-based security. You know, I was in New York City on 9/11, you know, was blessed to be also flying the reserves, so that, you know, we all responded quickly. But a lot of things changed on that day. You know, up until then, you know, this concept of engaging more virtually really didn't exist. Everything was about the physical meeting. But quickly, right, as everybody knows, physical security started going up in buildings, not being able to get access, and specifically talking from a sales perspective, right? Barriers went up. And so everybody adjusted. And then from a prospect standpoint, they adjusted well as well. And I remember even, you know, when I was at CA, you know, back in 2004 to like 2008 or 2009, we did multi-million dollar deals over the phone with companies that we never met in person. And so some of that, you know, that trust was there because we all pivoted. From a security standpoint, you know, if I'm an MSP, I mean, let's face it, every survey every one of us has read, what is the number one thing that MSPs are concerned about right now? And by the way, their clients are as well. And if they're not, you need to educate them, is security. Now, what does that mean? We have, you know, security issues happening all over the place, whether it's phishing attacks, you know, ransomware. I mean, it's been so humbling to talk to so many people I've known in the space forever, having to talk about how they're experiencing these ransom attacks. And it's just horrible. So for me, you know, it's one, you know, how are they protecting themselves? And then two, what are they doing, you know, to be able to communicate some of these requirements, you know, to their clients. Now, also, you know, just touching on that base, you know, that, you know, kind of at a high level, I know working with a lot of MSPs are like, well, I'm just kind of, I do this, you know, all you can eat, and, you know, whatever security tool I'm going to add, I just kind of throw it in there to my all you can eat.
Mm-hmm.
And I would let you guys know, man, there's a lot of MSPs out there that are building that separate security practice and are using that to go into their existing client base and say, hey, look, I want to talk about security. It's important.
Mm-hmm.
And not have to present it as something I'm just going to give you, but like, look, this is really important. It has value, and that, look, it can drive some additional revenue for you guys.
I love that.
I'm afraid to have that conversation.
Absolutely. And what do you think is scaring them to have that conversation, that they don't actually have the fully baked stack themselves, and they don't want to lead with that because they haven't figured it out yet completely, how they're going to operate or what that looks like?
Well, I mean, look, at the end, what is everybody afraid of? Whether you're a vendor, an MSP, it doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
You're afraid of losing your client.
Mm-hmm.
And so, some of the MSPs that I've had a chance to work with over the last few years since I left ConnectWise was really helping them understand that you haven't changed your pricing. I don't want to call anybody out. Some of them were still utilizing all you can eat pricing that they had in place for, 10 years.
Sure.
And the world has changed, and getting them comfortable with understanding that if you're driving value and they stayed with you for that long, they appreciate what you do.
Mm-hmm.
And being able to go in and have that conversation. If you add nothing else, to be able to go in and say, hey, look, we have a price raise.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not going to lie, every time that, have done this with MSP, there's always been a little fear. And here's the good news. They've all come out the other side, if not 100% retention. Maybe you lost one client along the way, but that net gain on that price change that you've earned, And so I think it's always that fear of, well, if I do anything that changes anything, they're going to leave me and go to another MSP. Mm-hmm. They're not. If you've built up that reputation and you've killed it for them, they're not going to leave. And I promise you, like I said, not 100% every time. You may lose one, you may lose two, depending on what your size is, but the majority are going to stick with you, and they see the value in what you deliver. And with those additional services that you're going to introduce, right, because you're the expert.
Absolutely. And that education piece you mentioned earlier, educating not only your current clients, but prospects on the why. If they are not already thinking about it, it's only a matter of when, not if, they could be under attack or anything along those lines. So knowing that it's inevitable, being that hero to come say, okay, great, well, here's what I can do for you, whether you're a current client or not. And if it's a current client, oh, by the way, I've already taken care of all of this for you. And this is why, we've been able to, keep you having uptime and make sure your business is growing and on and on and on. But oh, by the way, this over here is another major, major need that you have in the business. And here's what we can do to take care of it. And then educating them on the why, because again, many times the education isn't there. And then two, not just educating on why security is so important, but educating too on the services that you're providing. Many MSPs that I've talked to are like, oh, I don't want to talk about it because I think that they think that I'm already doing that. So You need to educate on what you are doing and not just let them assume, and don't be scared of that conversation. It's okay to say, hey, look, I love that you think I was already taking care of this. We've done amazing things for you. But by the way, we need to double down on security. And here's what this package looks like.
Well, and to your point, but there's technologies that didn't exist a year ago or 2 years ago that are filling gaps in the security stack that, look, you didn't know 2 years ago, 1 year ago, sometimes 6 months ago. And there's so many great, technologies that continue to emerge, and I don't know every one of them. Mm-hmm. And, but I'm always blown away, and you're like, wow, that's really interesting. And that really is helping the MSP. So why is it uncomfortable to be able to go back to your customer and say, hey, look, there's this emerging technology mm-hmm. that really can make an impact on you and securing your environment, your infrastructure. Mm-hmm. And we've kind of signed off on it, right? Because that's important. You're the expert. Mm-hmm. So when you say you've given it your stamp of approval, and then you're saying, hey, look, and we strongly advocate that this can help you in your particular environment, and that, it is going to have a cost. Absolutely. That's the world we live in. We're all living in, we're all capitalists.
Absolutely. Now talk to everyone watching about where Liongard fits in that mix.
Yeah, Liongard is really been a fun journey. We're just wrapping up our second year, just crossing over. It's awesome. By the way, any Liongard partners out there, can't thank you enough. We have over 1,000 unique MSPs now partnering with us for a while. And, we're kind of doubling year over year. And, where we're really helping is, if there's an area I would hone in on, is really identifying change. And so one thing that you can clearly see when you engage with Liongard is, you get these change notifications. And so again, don't want to go into a big product overhaul, but there are some very strong security components to it. But there's also some other components to it as well. It's not just the change management, it's the visibility into all your cloud systems and being able to capture some of that information. So it's whether it's securing, whether it's allowing you to scale more, allowing you to onboard new clients faster. So when you're kind of going out there and you're doing some more of that, that inventory manually, why would you want to do manually anymore? We have software that can automate a lot of that, like a Liongard. So we're kind of interesting. We get compared to Splunk a lot, and what they mean by that, and it's honest, it's an honor for us, is that there's so many different things that we do for the MSP that it's hard to just say the one thing that we do, because we do a lot. And so whether it's security, scalability, helping with the onboarding, the automated documentation and inventory of licensing, and then with all the different, 50 something integrations we have now with all the different vendors in the space. So a little bit of what we do, but if you get a chance, check us out. If talk to one of your fellow MSPs, and if they're using us, ask them a little bit about their experience. I always encourage everyone, go check us out on Glassdoor. You'll see that internally we're having a really good time. That comes through to your experience with us. Check us out on Reddit. People talking about us on Reddit and having good dialogue. And then if you like what you see, give us a call.
One of the things that you just said, and I absolutely obviously recommend everyone take his advice just now and check it out. And one of the things that you just mentioned, back to how to sell. The best way to sell is to let everyone come up with their own conclusions based on the opportunity to research your company out there in the social sphere and in the digital marketplace. And that's really what it is that we're talking about this day and age. And it started way back when you could actually rate products ages ago, back when Amazon started rating, it started to become the opinion-based marketplace. And so you believe your friends, you believe what others say, and that's just what it is. And so I love that. Definitely go and check out all of those and use that as a bit of advice too for your own company. If you as an MSP haven't gone out there and asked for those reviews from your current clients and your raving fans, if you haven't even gone on Reddit to see or search your name and see if you're being talked about, many times there's conversations happening that you don't even know are going on about your business. So be aware of what's happening and make sure, that you've got a social presence out there. I mean, Adam, you on LinkedIn, you do a great job of making sure that you're out there, making sure that it can be felt what you're going through inside the company. And I think that's really important. And I think that you guys do a great job of that.
Well, thank you. But, for the MSP, because you bring up a good point, right, is, are you evangelizing your message? Have you optimized your website? Mm-hmm. Because if you haven't, you really need to. Mm-hmm. In the modern world, it's estimated that 60 to 70 something % of the journey is done through self-education before they really will engage with you. And so, really understanding that and embracing that, making sure that your website is optimized. Are you sharing thought leadership, which is, by the way, awesome. Something I've seen so many of the MSPs doing to their clients. They're definitely sharing a lot of information. Yeah. And it's not always about, hey, let me pitch my company, which I got to be honest, I don't, and I always appreciate, when you get a chance to talk a little bit about your company, but I really do want to encourage people more to do more self-awareness. Mm-hmm. We have a great website. There's a lot of information there. We have a lot of thought leadership out there, even if you never, become a partner with us. Mm-hmm. We like giving back to the community, but think about it. What's different from the MSP, and, if you're not doing it or you're not doing it enough, really think about that and evaluate where you can make some of those changes.
Absolutely. And I think that's great advice. And many partners are getting through that journey and beginning that journey right now. And I always get proud to see when there are MSPs out there taking that leap and putting videos out and putting themselves out there and you'll win. And the neat thing about social selling too, is that everyone forgets very soon after something is posted too. So it's okay if you mess up. It's okay if it wasn't your best take, and you just got to keep going and keep being consistent, because just like email, in that sense, that you've seen that person's name over and over and over again, even if you didn't watch that whole video or read the entire email, and that what it is that they do. So by the time you're ready to make that decision, hopefully you're the company and brand that they're going to think of. So that's really what it's all about. And that when they think of you, they have a good feeling, and that they'll reach out and chat with you. So I think
well, be genuine, right? Just be
absolutely.
genuine, just be genuine and share, and you don't have to fake it. You don't have to like put on some big facade. You're not going to be a fit for everybody. Nobody is, no vendor is. And, that's why I like about in the space so much is that, look, when we work together, what is everybody standardized? Nobody says customer in this space, right? We all say partner, and we understand that. And I've loved that. I can't tell you how much it's meant, I think, all of us in the space. I think, and from what I hear from the MSP side as well, that you can know your vendor, we can engage with that vendor, we can be friends, we can help each other even when we're not, partners. And I just love that. But take that approach to your prospects and your clients.
Absolutely.
You're the best practice. You're going to tell them no when they need to hear no. You're going to say, you know what? Yeah, based on that, this really isn't a fit for you. And it just builds up that really that respect and that credibility, kinship,
and trust, which is huge.
Everything.
Particularly now. And I think that's great advice. And I absolutely love chatting with you. I always do, that. Anything that you want to leave the partners with that are tuning in that you think maybe could help one, maybe could help 1,000, any parting words?
No, for me, the cascading message, is always around leadership. There's such a massive difference between leadership and management, or sometimes like in a recent post, I talked about being an administrator, and management is great and administration is great, but leadership is everything. Lead by example, make a difference, lead in your community, lead to your clients, but definitely certainly lead internally. And it becomes so apparent if you see that just these great scores and great reviews internally of a company on Glassdoor, and all of a sudden you see them plummet. Why do they plummet? And it's generally because of an absence of leadership. So, my cascading message is never forget to understand the true difference between leadership and all those other things. Be a leader.
I love that. And I thank you for being a leader in the channel and putting your mark on any company that you've been with and any company that you will be with in the future. And we just appreciate you being part of the channel family. So thank you for joining, Adam. And thank you everyone for tuning in. Definitely connect with Adam on LinkedIn if you are not already. He's got a lot to share and you can learn a lot, as well as reach out and figure out how you can loop Liongard into your mix. And we will talk to you soon.
Thank you guys. Hope it helped. See y'all.